Okay. Well, for those of you who are new to me or, oh, one more person coming in. Great. My name is Garrett Plekenpole. I wanted to share a little bit about what led me to putting this together for some context. It's constant journey of learning about who you are and where you come from and why that matters and how you're going to apply that to serve people. Last night I realized that I grew up in 4 countries, had visited 40 countries before I was 10, went to 5 different high schools, and eventually studied psychology. And that led me to have these amazing opportunities to travel in the Himalayas and Tibet, Bhutan, Nepal, India, spiritually seeking. And at the end of the day, I think what that means is that number one, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what we're here for, and also just like wanting to connect with people. So this is a really good outlet for me, and I appreciate you being here and giving me the opportunity to share some of the things that I've learned along the way. This is the Success Hacking Seminar. We're going to cover 3 of the most powerful tools, a little bit of context of like where these tools came from. They were introduced to me by my mom, first and foremost. And, with moms, it sometimes takes years of hearing them say the same things before it registers. Um, and finally, I started about, a month ago. No, sorry, like 9 months ago, year and a half, applying these techniques, and my life was radically transformed, financially, professionally, in my relationships. And I'm excited to see where they've taken me so far, and I'm even more excited to see where they will continue to take me in the future. I want to real quick make sure that, oh, okay. So what we're going to talk about, how do I pin the speaker, you guys? Anybody help me with that? Okay, gotcha. Okay, fixed it. Oop. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the most powerful tool known to man. In fact, if you were to look at everything around you that you see, everything was created using this tool. And if you can take a guess at what that is, I'll tell you it's the wrench. And of course, I'm not being serious. We're talking about the mind. But this isn't the mind, this is the brain, right? So how do we have this most amazing tool and we're not even sure what it looks like? So this gentleman named Bob Proctor, he was a student of Napoleon Hill, and he presented that an accurate image of the mind was something like this, and he broke it down even further. And hopefully after the end of this presentation, this image will be more and more familiar to you. He broke it down further that there's a conscious and a subconscious, and the conscious mind is what we use on a daily basis. It has the ability to reject and accept information. And then the subconscious mind is beneath that, and it has no ability to reject or accept. It has to receive everything that's given to it. So when we are babies, we don't have the conscious mind developed sufficiently to be able to reject and accept information. So all these thoughts, images, and ideas that come from parents, siblings, television, school, eventually employers, coworkers, neighbors, and the music, movies, and books that we listen to and read fill our subconscious mind with ideas. And those, as we'll later learn, repeated ideas become these deeply held convictions in our subconscious mind that become, how we see ourselves internally. Now, because the subconscious mind is the emotional, it's in our body, And our body, as you know, is the extension, and it creates the results that we have in our life. So if you want to know what your subconscious view of yourself is, just look at the results that you have in your life. It's automatic. It's almost like a software or an operating system was installed on your computer. And isn't that interesting that the software was installed for you by your environment? So the invitation after this seminar is that we can reprogram our computer with operating system for success, and you can create whatever results that you want to get in your life. So because the operating system is installed on the computer, it produces results automatically. And this is similar to a plane that takes off in New York on its way to Hawaii, and it goes on autopilot. Now, the plane on its way maybe hits a little bit of turbulence, or, goes off course a little bit, and the detector will detect this anomaly and adjust its flaps and slow down its speed so that it gets back on track to Hawaii. So let's look at a practical example of this. So say you have an image of yourself, your sibling said, you're bad at math. You're so bad at math or whatever. So you imagine that you are a D student in math. That is how you see yourself internally. That's what was repeated to you. That's how you accepted it on a subconscious level. So you hold that image. Now, even if you were to study incredibly hard and invest to get a tutor and get an ace, an A on an exam, and you get a B plus, just like the automatic pilot on the plane, your subconscious self-image will detect the anomaly of a B plus and tank the remainder of your semester so that you're back on track to be a D student. So let's look at another example. Say you are in the sales profession and you see yourself as $1 million a year salesperson. Now, say you have a $300,000 week. Again, your self-image will detect that and then tank the remainder of the year so that you're back on track for your $1 million mark. Now, I want to introduce you to a teacher of mine named Dr. Myron Golden. He says that we have all been created for success and programmed for failure. And I want to look at this crazy example that's provided in his book, From the Trash Man to the Cash Man, how anyone can get rich starting from anywhere. And we're going to look at a financial example here, but the point is that the majority of people have been programmed with these ideas of failure. So if you want to achieve things, you have to go against the grain here. And this is what we're talking about in this seminar, how to do that. So in Dr. Myron's book, he looks at a sample of 100 people who work from the ages of 20 to 65. At the end of that time, when they turn 65, and one is going to be rich, one person. 4 will be financially independent. 5 are still going to be working. 28 are going to be dead. And 62 are going to be dead broke. So what does this mean? That means that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, only 5% of people are going to make it financially, and the other 95 will not. And here's the main idea that I want you to take away from this, that the people who are successful, those 5%, they're not trying to be successful as much as the 95% are trying to struggle and fail at what they're going for. And this is because it's in their programming. It's completely automatic. So that I hope that this raises an alarm, or like points to the importance of starting to think about how we can address this for ourselves and in our lives. So fortunately, there was a gentleman named Napoleon Hill, and back in the Great Depression era, he was tasked by Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate, to make a study of the 500 most wealthy and successful people in America at the time. And Napoleon Hill spent 25 years studying the habits and beliefs and behaviors of the wealthiest people in America. And this included people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. And he compiled a list of something like 17 principles that these people used. One of which was the principle of autosuggestion. Now, the principle of autosuggestion is the answer that we're looking for. It is the idea that if you repeat something to yourself enough times, even if it's not true, even if it's a lie, it will become true for you. And think about how our parents and our siblings and the books and the movies and the TV and the media and our neighbors and coworkers just repeating the same ideas, get good grades, go to college, get a job, start a family, retire, right? Who's heard that 1,000, more than that times? So in the same way, and at the same time, where all of those things can be perfectly good, if you accept what society feeds you at face value, that's what 95% of people are hearing. And that produces those results. So just imagine if the majority are accepting what's given to them at face value, if you want different results, you have to pursue different information and feed yourself different information. So this is the idea of the autosuggestion, is that if you take new ideas of how you want to be, and this is all extremely subjective of, what results I'm sure we were all impacted and therefore we get different results. Everybody's unique. And at the same time, if there's any area in your life more than financial, you can begin to input through repetition in the very same way. So using the principle in your favor to create results in your self-image by replacing the old self-image with the new self-image. And so we're going to look at a very practical example for how to do that. And of course, it gets into your body and it changes your results. So this is an incredibly important breakthrough because so many of us are trying to change our behavior consciously. And we start diets or we start programs and we enroll in seminars and we're doing all these things on the surface, and we come up against our own self-image. And so instead of spending on this or attending that or reading more of this, hiring that, what we need to be doing is working on applying the principle of autosuggestion in our lives so that we can feed our subconscious mind different results. So for example, if you see yourself as a certain way, as we just discussed earlier, even if you try to act differently because you see yourself that way, that's the results that you're going to continue to get. So let's look at a very practical example. This is technique number 1 out of our 3. So I invite you to create 2 lists on 2 pieces of paper. On one, you're going to describe how your life is. And there's a great quote from James Baldwin that says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." So on this paper, it's only for your eyes. You're going to take an in-depth account of the results that you're getting in your life. And this is important because the only way to change something is to become aware of it, right? So when you would take account for all of these things, you can be sure that what you're looking at on the paper is a direct reflection of how you see yourself, which is amazing. And then on the second sheet of paper, on your second list, you are going to describe how you want your life to be. And you have the option also to do this with your financial situation specifically. So you do one for your life, your relationships, your living situation, your career, etc. So in total, there would be four if you decided. And then with your financials, how it is, how you want it to be. And then with both A papers, this is the process here, how things are. You're going to take that paper and light it on fire. And what that registers in the subconscious mind is that that is no more. It is terminated. And then what you're going to do with the B paper, you're going to take that list and you're going to convert it, every single item on that list of how you want things to be. You're going to convert it into the formula, I am so happy and grateful now that. So if on your list of how you want things to be, you want a loving relationship. I am so happy and grateful now that I have a loving relationship. If on that paper you wanted multiple streams of income, I am so happy and grateful now that I have multiple streams of income. And you do it for every area of your life. And here is where you apply the principle of autosuggestion. You read it every morning for the next 90 days. This is your work. It's a little bit weird, right? Like they don't teach you how to do this in school, but again, what they taught in school is what 95% of the people are accepting at face value. Society is feeding what feeds a select few amount of people's pockets, right? So you gotta do this kind of work. And again, it's just more important than ever because you want to achieve things with great ease. And I would hope that and wish that for you. Now, I want to point out a very critical piece of this practice. I am so happy and grateful now that. Now, that is a very important formula because it emphasizes the emotion and the present reality of what you are writing. So oftentimes people subscribe to the idea that their emotions are dictated by their situation or their external reality, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It's literally the opposite of the truth, that our emotions decide our future states. So if you can feel the results of what you want to be experiencing in the future, it's like the emotions that we embody are a magnet for the experiences in life that we want. So I want to give you a very fascinating example that I probably came across 10 years ago. This lady was she had a tumor and she had tried all these Western practices and she ended up going into the foothills of the Himalayas and found acquired these medicine men to come in from the distant villages, and they basically sat around this lady and they held with such conviction and faith the emotional state of what the reality would be like where there was no tumor. And they sat with it for hours, and it was amazing because on the x-ray machine you could just see the tumor. I know, but take it for what it's worth, that you can embody an emotion and literally invite a new reality. So when you're doing these things every day and you're reading this list to yourself, that's the invitation that you really tap into the emotion of what it will be like when you have that new reality. Super critical. So I want to do a little bit of a transition here into the second technique. So we're going to look at a gentleman named Maxwell Maltz. Now, Maxwell was a plastic surgeon actually, and he would do operations on people, and he became fascinated because he would do the same incision or same adjustment, and one person would go on to have a completely transformed life, completely transformed personality, and another person would stay the same. So he found the self-image in a very different way than Bob Proctor and Napoleon Hill. That there's the external personality, the our physical form, and then the way that we see ourselves internally. And even if you change things physically, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the way that you see yourself internally is going to change. So he became fascinated by this, and he ended up writing a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And in this book, he explores how to effectively change the way that you see yourself, as well as how you do anything, and how people accomplish great things. And basically, at the time that he was writing this, people knew as much about the mind and what was going on inside of the head as, like, literally there was a quote from that time that he wrote it maybe 100 years ago, that they knew as much about psychology as if they were to open up the skull and it would be filled with cotton. So Maxwell was looking into psychology and understanding of the mind at the same time that computers were starting to come out. And Maxwell realized that the mind operates in much the same way that machines do. So cybernetics is the functionality of any machine or mechanism, and psychology. So psycho-cybernetics is the result of Maxwell's study as to, like, how people change and achieve things in life. And he looked at the mind, much like a machine that was given to mankind to create whatever they wanted in life, but we have and how specifically to use it. So if you look at a machine, there are two functions of a machine to create outcomes. One where the goal of where the outcome is known, and another where the goal is unknown. So if you look at an example where the goal is known, that's like a heat-seeking missile. It knows where it needs to go, and it will adjust its course to get there. Another example of that is when learning how to drive. You know the destination that you want to, but you can imagine it's all over the road at the first time taking the wheel. Where the goal is unknown, it's like when the computer or the machine has this information inside of it that's been logged on, plugged into it, and it needs to create a solution using the information that it already has. So that's like when you run into somebody and you're trying to remember their name and it's not coming to you, and all these different options start until you find the right one. That's exactly the same. So in psycho-cybernetics, he talks about this brain operation that was happening where the surgeon accidentally, and in some brain operations, the patient stays awake just to make sure that they maintain their dexterity. And the surgeon scraped up against a part of the brain accidentally, and the patient expressed in that moment that they just remembered something from their childhood that they didn't know that they had as a memory. So what that indicated is that there's a part in the brain that has stored every single experience that we have. And what that implies is that if we are experiencing a problem in our life or looking for a solution in our life, we already have the answer inside of us. And what we need to learn to be able to do is how to tap into that and take heed of that machine that we've been given to accomplish whatever it is that we want in life. At least 10 billion electronic cells would be needed to build a facsimile of man's brain. Power required to operate it would be 1 billion watts. Again, just emphasizing from the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, that it is literally the most intricate and powerful machine known to man, and it's in our own being, and so it's all the more important to learn how to use it. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think this picture, and this picture all have in common? Well, take for example that a squirrel born in the spring will intuitively know to collect nuts for the winter, even though it's never been shown or taught how to do that. Birds in the sky, they will travel across vast distances to land and arrive at a specific place on the planet where the temperature is 1 degree warmer every year without a guidebook or without a roadmap. And in the same way, humans have the ability to survive and create. And for humans, our success, and so what they all have in common is that we all have an instinct for success. For animals, reproduction and survival. For humans, success is much more complicated. We raise families and start businesses and write poetry. However, in as much as all of creation was bestowed with this incredible device to accomplish anything that it desires, humankind was actually blessed in excess, to be able to create all the amazing things that only humans know how to do. So let's look at how we can actually utilize this machine that's been given to us to change the way that we see ourselves and accomplish anything that we want to in life. Well, fortunately, because you already have all of the answers inside of you and you have this incredibly powerful tool at your disposal, the way to tap into your mechanism, your success instinct and your mechanism, is simply to relax. And a lot of professional athletes and a lot of, professional salespeople and speakers, they use the following techniques to tap into their success mechanism. And this is all from Psycho-Cybernetics. He found that the way that people transformed their lives and accomplished anything was by simply relaxing into their body and using their imagination to feed the machine of their mind with the input of the output that they wanted. It's as simple as that. So Brian Tracy said, the imagination is the preview of the attraction to come. Now let's look at a couple of specific examples of how to relax mentioned in the book. So for 15 to 30 minutes every day, every morning, and you can actually start at 5 minutes. You can imagine that your legs have become heavy as concrete so that if someone were to come in the door and try to lift you up, they wouldn't be able to because you're glued to the ground. You start with your legs and then you move it into your shoulders and your neck so that eventually you're getting your body into a relaxed state so that you can feed your mind with the image or the result that you're looking for. Another way is to imagine that in between each joint in your body is a string, so you're like a marionette doll. Another is to imagine that at the end of your feet, at the end of your hands, at the top of your head, there's a valve that releases the air, and so your body becomes this deflated balloon. And the final is to remember a time in your life where you felt completely relaxed, and just for 5 to 15 minutes to start tap into that memory so that you can get in that really relaxed state. And again, what we're accustomed to is getting really caught up in our prefrontal cortex, and this is where anxiety and this is where overthinking, and we end up getting in our own way when what we really need to be telling ourselves throughout the day is, I am becoming more and more relaxed. And what this is saying is that your mind mechanism already has all of the things that it needs in order to create the results that you want. And overthinking and having anxiety actually deters or detracts from the functioning of your own machine. So hopefully this is valuable uh, for you to know that you can achieve anything you want simply by relaxing and seeing the outcome that you want. And again, it's all the more important to, when you're imagining the things that you want, crushing a speech, landing a sale, marrying the person of your dreams, getting your new house, um, that you tap into the emotion of that, as we remember from before. So I want to transition here into the third and final technique. If anybody recognizes this gentleman, his name is Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins had a mentor, and his name was Jim Rohn. And I want to take a second here to share a quote from Jim that I heard recently that I think is just so powerful. "The same wind blows on us all, the winds of disaster, opportunity, and change. Therefore, it is not the blowing of the wind, but the setting of the sails that will determine our direction in life." So I want to take a second to capture the importance of this idea. When you are writing your how you want your life to be, I am so happy and grateful, repeating it 90 days, you're literally adjusting the rudder of your life so that 5 years from now, the version of you that is today was once the version of you that was 5 years from 5 years ago, right? So when today you implement the ideas of psycho-cybernetics and those taught by Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor, 5 years from now, they say you ought to work on the future because that's where you're going to spend the rest of your life. And the work that you do right now to embody the emotions of the results that you want, and use the principle of auto-suggestion to feed your subconscious mind. Yeah, you might not get immediate results, but 5 years down the road, a year down the road, 6 months down the road, you could be living a totally different life because you decided to be intentional today. I want to add a quick note about the importance of writing things down. Tony Robbins said that when you write something down, you're 40% more likely to accomplish it. That's science. It was a scientific study. On top of that, back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, anything that you see in your life, a mug, your phone, your desk, your computer, it all started, everything that you see in the world originated as a thought in somebody's head. So when you have an idea or you have a desire that you would like to see as a result in your life, when you write it down, it's the first step of bringing something from the non-material, unmanifest, into the manifest material world. So just emphasizing the importance of actually taking a pen and paper and writing it down, exactly what you want. So Jim Rohn also had a mentor, and his name was Earl Shoaff. And John is where this third and final technique comes from. So this third and final technique is this idea of planting seeds. So you're going to write on a paper what you want, how you want what you want, when you want it, who you want to be with when you get what you want, and how do you want to feel when you get what you want. And you can do this for 6 months from now, you can do this for 5 years from now, you can do this for 10 years from now. You know, it's sometimes difficult to know exactly what we want 10 years from now. So typically within that like 5 year range is where, you know, it's a guiding principle. Just like Jim Rohn was saying about having your sail set. So if you ask a captain where the ship is going, he or she would be able to tell you in a split second, even though they're traveling thousands of miles on open sea, because the captain knows where the ship is going, he can tell you for sure. And the more specific you are, and we're going to cover this in a second, the more specific, the better. But having that 5 year vision for your life sets the sail in such a way that you get to where you want to go rather than where the winds of society just push you. So back to the planting seeds idea. What you're going to do with this paper is, first and foremost, write thank you. After you've created your list of everything that you want, write thank you, because that registers in the subconscious mind that it's already been received. It's a very important part of the technique. And then just like a farmer plants seeds, you're going to take that paper with the thank you and your list of everything that you want, and you're going to put it somewhere that you will never see it. So think about a farmer. If a farmer were to revisit a seed every day and dig it up and inquire, you know, oh, how's it growing? Actually, it would prevent the growth of the seed. So you need to say thank you, tuck it away, and leave it alone. And what's going to happen is that those experiences, because you just planted a seed in your subconscious mind effectively. And that it's a very specific technique of writing thank you. But what you will begin to experience is the things that you asked for will begin to come into your life, because on a subconscious level, you expect that those things to come to you. So if you wrote that you wanted a specific light blue Corvette, you might see them driving by all the time. And what that's an invitation for you to do is to not fret about, oh, where's mine? But actually take it as a sign that what you asked for is coming to you. And here's a really important point. Say you were to write, I want a blue Corvette. Now, you have to be really, really particularly specific, because what if you got a blue Corvette, but it was a 1920 broken down, rusty blue Corvette in your uncle's garage, right? So you need to be extremely specific about the thing that you're planting a seed for. A great example of that was this guy that said, you know, I want to be on the hull of a boat with the breeze blowing in my face and on the open sea. And 6 months later, he had that, but he was in the service, right? So if you can take that and say, you know, I want to be on the hull of a boat with the breeze in my face on the open sea, on a boat that I own with people that I love and my family, and you know, it makes that much of a difference. So you need to be really super specific. Another example of that is, I believe it was John's niece or something that had written that she wants to have $1 million. And months, a year later, she had $1 million, but it wasn't hers. She was working at a bank, and she was handling the bank's $1 million. So when you write it, be so specific, and even the language that you use of I receive or I earn, I make $1 million. You know, a lot of us earn $1 million a year, but we don't receive $1 million a year. So I earn and receive $1 million a year. And so you write that on your paper, you tuck it away, you write thank you, and you just forget about it. It's like some super formula. And it's also important when you're visiting your I am so happy and grateful. You know, what you feed your subconscious mind is the result that you're going to get. The other two techniques that we looked at are much more hands-on, whereas this one is much more hands-off. So you sort of get to pick, but as an exercise, using the pen and paper that you brought with you, I'm not sure if you did that, after the session, the invitation is that you spend 5 minutes journaling about something that you want to have or something that you want to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years, and be as specific as possible. And once you have completed your page, write thank you somewhere on the page, anywhere on the page, and take it home with you and leave it somewhere where you will not see it or think about it. That is the invitation for you to try after this session. Also on YouTube, if you want to listen to like I think it's like 45 minutes of Earl Shoaff, him describing this exercise in much greater detail. It's called How to Become a Millionaire. And I highly recommend you check that out. It's a great track. Now I want to do a brief recap. And before we wrap up, I have two, maybe three other nuggets that are just useful tips and tricks as you embark on applying all of these things into your life. But a brief recap is that we have our principle of autosuggestion, the subconscious mind. We were fed what society gave us. 95% of people don't end up where they want to be because they took everything at face value. So if you want to have an extraordinary life, if you want to be in that 5% and accomplish the things that, you know, the people in Think and Grow Rich and everyone, you know, that is living an outstanding life, you have to feed yourself different information through the process of autosuggestion, which leads us to the idea of writing, I am so happy and grateful, repeating that for 90 days, etc. Then we got into psycho-cybernetics and how to tap into your success instinct to create the life of your dreams with ease, because you already have all of the answers in your incredibly powerful machine that you were born with. And the idea is to relax for 5 to 15 minutes every day and see the life that you want and feel the emotion of the life that you want, and be amazed, honestly, be amazed when those things start coming to your life. Because, and here's a little bit of a tidbit, is that the success instinct and the failure instinct is engaged automatically. And when you turn your success instinct on, you do that by feeding yourself a goal, and then all of a sudden life comes back to you. You're ignited with passion, you're ignited with ideas, and the way to really, you know, come alive in life is to give yourself something to go after. And you can feed it any way you like, but that's honestly one of the best outcomes that I could hope for you if you were to apply any of these things into your life, is that you feel inspired and engaged and excited that you can create the life of your dreams. And as soon as you start applying these things and feeding your subconscious mind and feeding your day-to-day practices with these ideas, your success instinct will kick on and you'll start accomplishing things that you never thought possible. Finally, we looked at the planting seeds idea and writing down on paper and then planting it and not digging it up, and letting your subconscious expectation of experiencing those things because you said thank you, letting that start to attract experiences into your life. Now, here are some useful tips. Again, back to Dr. Myron. He is huge on, you know, having a millionaire mindset. And if you want to be a millionaire, I believe it's Tony Robbins that says you need to study the syntax and the physiology and the beliefs of millionaires. So that's the millionaire mindset, and you feed yourself with the information of millionaires and the practices of people that are in successful relationships and business ventures, etc. Just consume information. But part of the millionaire mindset is knowing the following principle. This may be the most important thing that I've shared with you so far. So Dr. Myron says that once you decide to do something, what you're going to experience automatically. So say you decide to, accomplish this or start that or start doing this. The first thing that you're going to experience is a disturbance in your life. So why does this happen? It happens because if you were to get what you asked for immediately, you wouldn't be the type of person, the kind of person that could hold on to what you asked for, even if you got it. So when you decide to do something or set an intention to do something, life will give you a disruption. And the reason it does that is to prepare you for what you asked for so that you can become the kind of person that will be able to hold on to what you asked for. And a lot of people, when they set a decision and they set an intention to make a decision, and that disturbance comes up, they will take it as a sign that they should not be doing it or they are going to fail and they back off. But actually, if you have a millionaire mindset, you recognize this pattern and you recognize the disturbance as something that actually is validating and affirming that your decision or intention is working. And so when you see the disturbance, you don't shy away from it, you don't get turned away by it, you lock in. And this is how millionaires create their wealth. This is how great athletes have their amazing careers. This is how anything gets created in the world. And so it's a simple formula that's embedded in the millionaire mindset that when you decide something, a disturbance will happen, and that's when you need to lock in, stick to your calendar, put it in as a routine that you'll continue to push through, even as the disturbance is, who knows what it's doing in your life to help you become the kind of person you need to be to experience the result that you asked for. And this is the important thing, that what you're working on, you aren't working on it, it is working on you. The whole purpose is for you to become the kind of person that can experience the results that you want. So when you're applying all of these things, you can expect maybe your life turns upside down. Embrace it and stick to the 90 days, stick to the every morning, stick to the script so that you can persevere through what life is preparing. So because life is just preparing you for what you asked for. Another one that I experienced is that I would have these goal setting or visualization exercises, and it seemed like every couple of months I would have a different goal or a different thing that I was going after, because we're constantly changing. So this is a technique that I came across that helps you to align with your deeper wisdom. You can call it your higher self. You could call it the Holy Spirit. But basically, it's a way to tap into what's in your best interest and what's best for everybody and what's best for your life, so that you can know what it is that you really want to go after, which I think is pretty important, rather than like shooting at all sorts of stuff that you might not actually want. So the way that you implement this technique is, first and foremost, you express feverishly passionate gratitude for everything that you have in your life, because there is a plan, or like there is a vision for your life, and even if things aren't where you think they are, you can still be grateful that there is a vision for your life, and this part of your story is just a chapter in the book. So you bring gratitude for everything that you're experiencing, even the highs and the lows. And then once you do that for sufficiently, like do it until you feel this wave of peace come over you, because that's basically that part of you that is in touch with the cosmos and divinity and like is aware of the big picture. When you feel peace, that's when you know that that part of you has entered into your presence. And once you feel that peace, that's when you make an inquisition of, you know, I don't know what's best for me because my knowledge is limited, and recognize that there is a part of you that does know what is best for you, and that is actually what's best for everybody. So to cut to the chase of what you should be going after or ought to be doing, etc., I encourage to apply this technique so that you get clarity on what it is. And then once you have the answer to your inquiry of what you should be doing or what the next best thing to do is, then you can apply all these other techniques to accomplishing it and really blowing it out of the water. Another really important thing is there's an app called the Miracle Morning, and this is the last slide here, guys. But basically, this guy, Hal Elrod, was in a really tough spot, financial crisis during the economic depression, 2008, and his marriage was failing, his health was failing. And so he started to do research on what the most wealthy and successful people and happiest people in the world do. And he found that all of them had a stellar morning routine. And so he did some research on morning routines, and he found that the most successful people have 6 things that they do every single morning. And he called them the savers. It was an acronym, and that stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. Scribing is like journaling. So as you can see, there's a lot of the techniques that we talked about embedded in here. And so there's an app, and if you're interested in it, it really over delivers as an app. And if you message me after this, you can get 30-day free pass trying the app out. But this is a really cool way to lock in and commit to transforming your life for the better. And you just, spend 10 minutes every day on each of these 6 every morning. And it's just a cool way to lock in and have it in your calendar, and you can track it on the app for the month, all the things that you did, and it's really engaging. So you decide to implement these things into your life. This is a cool way to lock in and have discipline about it. Now, a quick note on reading. A lot of people say they don't like reading, and a quote from Bob Proctor is that there are no shortcuts in life, but you can quantum leap by reading and learning about the experiences of other people. So I was just talking about this the other day that, if you learn by the experiences of your life alone, imagine that somebody lived a life where they got a PhD and spent 16 years studying a particular subject, and they wrote a book, and you read that book in 2 hours and got 16 years of experience and knowledge in a 2-hour window. That saves you 16 years. So that's what it means to like quantum leap and get experience and exposure. So my invitation to you as you embark on applying all of these things into your life is to enroll in Automobile University, which is using your commute time or anytime you're driving to be listening to tracks that from Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, Myron Golden, Maxwell Maltz, and have this information on repeat for yourself so that you can not only learn and quantum leap, but also have the repetition of the auto-suggestion going in your subconscious mind on a daily basis. So thank you very much. I know that was a lot of information, I maybe should have given a precursor before starting that. There's a saying, maybe it's like from Tao Te Ching or something, but let these ideas be guests in your tea house, and you don't necessarily need to offer them tea. You let them come and go. Kind of let it flow through you. And but I will stop the recording here and open it up to any questions that you might have. We've got about 3 minutes till we're at the top of the hour, so any questions that you have.
Yeah, Garrett, I got